Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this info session about our research experiences for undergraduates and educators program at the Columbia Climate School for summer 2022. I know that folks are probably still joining, but we want to get started. Just so everybody knows, this is being recorded and we'll share a version of the recording with all of you along with the slides after we are done here today. So no need to frantically jot down notes, as you will be able to find a version of this recording. So today what we really want to do is introduce you to the summer program, have our mentors who are participating in the summer 2022 program share a bit of information about the projects that they have lined up for everyone, and then we will share with you the eligibility of participants as well as the application process, important dates, and we're also very lucky here. We're very lucky today to have our mentors joining us for the session, as well as to past participants who were involved in the program last summer to join us as well and share some experiences about what it was like to be a part of this effort. So my name is Cassie, and along with Joshua Fisher, who's also here today, we lead and oversee this research experiences effort, and we're really excited to be here with you today and to share a little bit about our plans for this summer. So I'm going to do this, and let's go right into summer 2022 projects. While we have our mentors here, this is a list of our of the projects that we have available for summer 2022. This is subject to change, as in we might potentially be able to add more to this, but this is at least the confirmed list for now. And as you'll see, some of them are for undergraduates, some of them are for educators only, and then there is one where there are opportunities for both. And these have been offered to us by our faculty, staff, researchers at Columbia, all affiliated with the Columbia Climate School in some way. So I'm going to start off by asking, so for the first project, I believe, Fabian, you are going to speak on behalf of the group. And if you could share a little bit about that particular project, that'd be great.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fabien Cotier. I'm a postdoctoral research scientist at the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. And as part of our project, undergraduate project, this project will actually look at the effect of climate change on migration and displacement in Africa. And I should start by mentioning this is a project together with Alex de Chabena, which is Associate Director for Science Applications at the Center for International Earth Science Network, and Michael Puma, who is Director for the Center for Climate System Research at Columbia also. And so the idea for this project is that you would be developing an independent research project that would involve research questions, literature review, and then use quantitative methods to answer the question you would have developed on migration due to climate, on a question related to climate change and migration in Africa. And this project will take place within either of two current existing projects here at Columbia, of which we are all involved in. So one of these is a National Science Foundation funded project that looks at the causal effect of climate variability, food security, and crop price on migration within West Africa. And the other one is a current project titled the African Climate Mobility Initiative. It's led by the African Commission in partnership with the United Nations and the World Bank. And as here at Columbia, as part of this project, we are trying to project future migration flow at the horizon 2030, 2050 as part of under various climate scenario. So you would choose one of those two projects, and you would develop independent project, as I mentioned. The idea that you would be using either data that's been produced by this project or independent or new original data to study the question of interest to you, and we will of course provide guidance throughout this project. Just a little bit more about the profile we are looking as a candidate for this project. So I think it's important that you have an interest either for climate change or for migration. That's of course the topic of the project, but it's also important that you have some interest for quantitative methods, right? And we don't expect you to be already familiar or having experience doing having programming skills, but you should be willing to invest at least some time to learn some of those quantitative tools, in particular geographic information system software such as ArcGIS or QGIS, and do so independently. So of course we will provide guidance support for this project, but you should be also able to invest some time on learning these tools. So that's an important aspect for us, and I will leave it at here.
Great, thank you. Alex and Michael, since you're here, do you have anything quick that you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, so I would just quickly add, it's, you know, we have a lot of interesting data that's available. One of the main data sets is a global migration data set that allows us to know where people are moving from country to country, and so that's one of the main sources that we would be working with. We have other interesting data sets, internal displacement data sets, people moving within countries, and also refugee movement data sets. And one of the exciting and challenging aspects of this work is to tease apart, what are the climate drivers and what are the other drivers. So there's socioeconomic drivers, there's conflict, many different factors could lead to people moving from place to place. And so that's the goal, is trying to tease apart the different potential drivers of migration. So yeah, look forward to seeing your applications.
And I'll just add that I thoroughly enjoyed mentoring another undergrad in last summer, and I invited Michael and Fabian along, and I think they'll enjoy the ride as well. It's a great program and a great experience. So looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. Michael Gerard, you are up next.
Thank you, Cassie. So my name is Michael Gerard. I'm a professor at Columbia Law School, where I teach environmental law and energy law, and I direct the Sabin Center for Climate Change Law. As everyone realizes, fighting the climate change crisis involves transitioning away from fossil fuels, and a central task in doing that is the construction of a very large amount of new renewable energy facilities to substitute for the fossil fuels that we want to stop using. A major problem with the siting of many wind and solar facilities is local opposition. And so we've founded something called the Renewable Energy Legal Defense Initiative, which provides pro bono legal assistance to community groups and individuals who want wind and solar and so forth in their communities, but that are facing local opposition. We have found that there are a number of arguments that are continually used against these renewable energy facilities, and many of them are false or at least overstated. Some of the arguments concern, disposal of old solar panels and turbines, supply chain issues, impacts on birds and other species. There's a whole list of objections that are raised. Sometimes they're raised by organizations that have hidden backing from the fossil fuel industry, but it's difficult for advocates for wind and solar and other renewables to counter them. So what we want a student to do is first compile the list of the most frequent arguments used against fossil fuel facilities, research into their validity, and to the extent that there are good rebuttals, write those rebuttals up in a form that we then want to put onto a website that we would create as a resource for the people who are supporting wind and solar and need to argue in public fora, town boards, city councils, and so forth, what the rebuttals to these arguments are. So it would be helpful if the people applying know something about website design, although that's not necessarily essential. Good research skills, interest in the engineering, scientific issues that arise is also helpful, although we're not looking for any specific science or engineering background. So I hope to be working with one of you this summer, and I look forward to seeing the applications.
Great, thank you. Beth, you are up next.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Beth Fisher Yoshida, and I lead the Youth Peace and Security Project at AC4, the Advanced Consortium on Cooperation, Conflict, and Complexity. And there are two main projects we're working on where an intern would be great. And we did work with somebody last summer, which was great. One is that a year ago, December, Juan Lopez and I, my colleague, published a book on the participatory action research projects we've been doing. And we invited about 10 of our partners on the ground from Colombia to work with us on the project. So now we're taking that and translating that into workshops to be able to prepare other youth leaders to become leaders in PAR, participatory action research projects. And the second project related to this is that we are collecting interviews soon for a book which is going to capture best practices of youth leadership, building on initiatives that started back in the 1970s from other community leaders. So we do prefer somebody who is proficient in Spanish, because part of the responsibilities will be to do a little bit of translating back and forth from the interviews, transcripts, and so on. And also to do a lit review for us, a literature review, creating an annotated bibliography. And what we'd really like to know is to access information, articles, books, and so on, written in Spanish on youth leadership initiatives and community building for peace and conflict transformation. So that's it for now. I look forward to answering any questions that any of you might have. Thank you, Cassie and Josh.
Thank you. And just a quick reminder to our viewers here, our mentors will likely leave after this particular slide and once they've described the projects. So if you do have any questions specifically about the content, Josh and I will cover everything else following this. Please use the Q&A box for those purposes. Great. So Tom or Josh, one of you, I can't remember which one, will speak about your project.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Chandler. I'm the Deputy Director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness of the Climate School at Columbia University. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Josh DiVincenzo, who is an instructional designer there. And the National Center for Disaster Preparedness, otherwise known as NCDP, is a research, training, and public policy oriented center in relation to all things disasters. We focus a lot on disaster preparedness, response, recovery, and long-term resiliency. And we're always looking to move the needle forward in relation to public policy in all those areas. And we have an opportunity for an intern to join us on a large federally funded project from FEMA, the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, that regards post-disaster economic and housing recovery. And we're really looking for an intern that can help us decipher a lot of the data we have in relation to the evaluation of pre and post tests and satisfaction surveys, and help us do a bit of data mining and evaluation, instructional design, as well as curriculum development. And it would be ideal if we could have a K-12 teacher who would work with us on these endeavors. And these are all efforts that you would be able to bring back and incorporate into your own classrooms in terms of your pedagogy and instructional strategies and curriculum development. And the skills you'd gain would be in relation to instructional design, evaluation, in particular for program evaluation, and some of the skill sets and tools we're interested in is SPSS and statistical analysis. We can definitely work with you and train you in those areas, as well as Atlas TI for qualitative research, and also ArcGIS is always helpful to have. And again, we can walk you through the different processes and procedures, in particular in relation to program evaluation. You'd also have access to a number of free lectures, web-based resources that we have in relation to economic and housing recovery. And we also support attending peer-reviewed conferences and presenting your work in relation to what you'd be working on with us. And I should also add that we had 3 NSF interns last year, and it worked out really well. And 2 of them will be presenting this March at the National Conference in Science Education on their findings from last year. So we're really looking forward to expand the pool of interns that we worked with and to expand our federal program. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Tom. Josh, Joshua De Vincenzo, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just Tom covered it, and looking forward to working with somebody this summer. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So our next mentor is not here, so I'm going to skip that one, but come back to it. And let's go to Paul, who is here to talk about his project with Jackie.
Thanks, Cassie. And hey, everybody, my name is Paul Gallet. I'm a new hire at Columbia. I'm working as the director of the Resilient Coastal Communities Project at the Center for Sustainable Urban Development in partnership with Dr. Jacqueline Klopp, who will also be a mentor on this project. Our goals are associated with the growing and very evident risk you see to our coastal communities from wind-driven storms like Superstorm Sandy, sea level rise, which is inexorably coming our way. Hopefully we can blunt it in the future, but there will be increasing impacts in the short run. And the stationary storms that we see like Hurricane Ida in the recent past. And communities have such extraordinary challenges in participating and helping to shape the resilience plans that are being created at the city, state, and federal level. And so our job at the Resilient Coastal Communities Project, and how we envision working with you if you come and join us, is that we have what is largely a process of fostering better decision making. We're working currently with 10 to 12 community organizations that are going to give us input as to how decision making can be done better and more inclusively and more justly. And we're also, of course, working on the sort of substantive solutions that would be put in place using this more just and equitable decision-making process. Mentioned in the prospectus is the research that we're doing on nature-based solutions, but we'll also be working this spring on benchmarking what adequate measures for coastal adaptation and resilience would look like and how we should define adequate measures. And so we will have opportunities both for social science research on decision-making models and building more inclusive processes, and also on models that require an interest in engineering and also in the physical sciences to support our work on the nature-based solutions. And of course, also a more general planning focus on assessing how much is enough and what does enough look like to really give our coastal communities some reasonable degree of sustainability and resilience.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. And I just want to come back quickly to this atmospheric rivers and impacts on Arctic sea ice melting project led by Dr. Yutian Wu at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. She was unable to be here today, but you can read about the specific project on the website and under our summer 2022 project descriptions. But in this particular project, she's looking for educators and just educators and looking at the role of atmospheric rivers while they are provide enhanced water vapor transport. They're also associated with extreme events, and recent studies have concluded that they might also contribute to the melting of Arctic sea ice. And so just gaining a better understanding of how they work, their role in our atmosphere and how they impact other systems. And the idea is to integrate aspects of this research project that's ongoing into curriculum in classrooms, primarily physics, math, and environmental science classrooms. There is going to be statistical analysis involved in this particular project. And if there are candidates with Python, R, or MATLAB backgrounds or experiences, that would be a bonus, although not a total requirement or make or break deal. And I think, as some of the mentors mentioned, there will be guidance that is provided, of course, in learning new tools, but we want to ensure that the participants are able to dedicate the time and commitment to picking up some of these new tools for the length of the project. So I see one Q&A ArcMap helpful. This might be a question for perhaps either Fabian or the other group that is potentially using GIS, and I can't recall, but maybe Fabian, if you want to comment on the ArcMap, if you think that might be helpful.
I think definitely if you have some background, that would be a bonus for us, but you don't necessarily have to have, I think what's really important for us is you're willing to invest in learning these tools. But if you already have prior exposure to ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro, QGIS, or any other tool, using R, for instance, that would be just as well. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. And I think we'll cover this a little bit in the application part, but just any of these skills or tools that you currently already know how to use or have some familiarity with, just make sure that you document that on your in your applications, whether it's on your resume or you want to specifically call it out in your personal statement. That would be extremely helpful for us to be aware of. Okay, so I see no other questions at the moment. If you are watching this recording and you do end up having questions about one of the particular projects, please just contact either Josh or myself. I'll provide that contact information at the end of the presentation. So our mentors, you are free to go. Thank you so much for joining us to share briefly with us about the projects, and we look forward to chatting with all of you soon.
Thank you. Bye
Great,
now.
thank you. Great. Lauren, I see your question. Oh yes, Josh is typing in answers, but we will also cover that. So I want to move on to sort of overall goals of the program. There's a lot of text here, but we're really hoping to have this be a research experience where participants, both for undergraduates and educators, are able to experience what it is like to work in a research environment, and what it is like to work in a very inter and transdisciplinary research environment. I mean, you heard from all of the mentors that there are opportunities to blend social sciences and policy and communication and law, and using the science that has been done and the science and scientific knowledge that's been generated from basic science research, and translating that and providing information to stakeholders. That's a big piece of what we want to do with this particular research experience. Some of you might be familiar with other National Science Foundation funded research experience sites. And everyone has their individual focus. Some are more computer science, some are more basic earth science. I would say that for this one, it's really about bringing those pieces together. So how do we bring the science and the research to different audiences through different formats and different ways of engaging audiences? It's a chance to work alongside Columbia experts and faculty and researchers and staff. And it's a fantastic opportunity for you to also meet peers and like-minded individuals who are also very interested in this work and might help contribute to your future networks as well. And I would say that another sort of aspect in in that community is that we also, in addition to the research work that you do, we also provide lots of extra professional development learning opportunities, such as additional content talks. Last summer, we did a resume and cover letter writing workshop for our undergraduates. And Josh Fisher, who's leading this with me, does a series of research workshops and preparation and training into what is research, how to conduct research, what is ethical research, and what are the things that you want to consider when you're doing this type of work, particularly when you're working with stakeholder communities. So those are some key aspects of the program that I think are really helpful for you to understand and know about this particular research experience site. So next, I'm actually going to, before I kind of go over program features, and actually I'm going to do the program features kind of bulleted list first, and then I'm going to have two former participants from last summer talk briefly about their experiences. So some key features, as I've talked about a little bit already. You're on a research project, you get training, you're learning new tools and techniques. There are networking and professional learning opportunities. You're working on very impactful projects where you see how this information is being brought to different communities. And it's really interesting to be participating. And I think in a lot of the mentors didn't mention this, but I think one of the really interesting pieces is that you also get to be a part of kind of their daily lives to see what their routine is on a day-to-day basis. Lots of our summer interns last summer got to join in on other meetings that their mentors were a part of. And this was really valuable experiences because they're meeting with individuals, again, who are actually stakeholders in the community. And this is a great way to sort of enhance your learning and your experiences. There is a stipend available. It is $6,000 for both the educators and the undergraduates. As we mentioned on the website, and I'll mention this again here, in a normal year pre-COVID, we would have provided, some housing would have been available. However, with current circumstances and just uncertainties, Columbia currently isn't allowing non-Columbia students or non-Columbia ID holders within residence buildings. This is a fairly large challenge to overcome, which was why for this year, for this summer, we're only going to be able to offer the program to those within a commuting distance of Columbia. And it will likely be in a hybrid model. Most of our faculty, researchers, and staff are not even back at work full time. Last summer, the participants had a fully remote program and we couldn't bring anybody to campus. So this summer, we're slowly inching our way back to a new normal post the pandemic. And so we're very aware that we apologize that we're only able to offer a revised version of the program. But if you have any questions about that, please let us know. And so I'm going to turn it over to Daniela first. And Daniela was one of our undergraduates last summer. And I'll hand it over to her to just talk a little bit briefly about her experience. And here she is in this photo here. And so yeah, Daniela, if you want to take it away.
Thank you so much, Cassie. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So again, I'm Daniela. I am currently a junior right now at Georgetown University, and I'm majoring in business and global affairs with a minor in environmental studies. So definitely not from a scientific background, but just from the fact and everything you guys have heard, this is very much a transdisciplinary scientific setting. So I felt so comfortable applying for this internship, and in the internship felt so comfortable using my skills and learning a whole new skill set. But yeah, so I worked with the International Research Institute for Climate and Society in a project called Strengthening Undernutrition Early Warning Systems in Guatemala. And I had amazing mentors. I had Dr. Angel Munoz as my mentor with Carmen Gonzalez Romero and also Sain Alabue. And they were amazing, amazing people that really helped me throughout my entire process in the internship. And actually, exposed me to really amazing opportunities, like Cassie was mentioning, that I was actually able to join in on their meetings with their stakeholders. So I was actually responsible with managing communications and conversations with the people in the Secretariat for Food Security and Nutrition in Guatemala. So that was an amazing experience, just also being able to talk with them and using my Spanish with them through Zoom, and learning how to communicate those science, all of that scientific research into conversations with these stakeholders that we really need to convince for them to use the systems that we're creating to help them. So just being a part of that and hearing their conversations and also having the opportunity to engage in those conversations was a totally amazing experience. And beyond that, I was also able to learn and have the opportunity to learn a lot about using scientific data and learning all of those quantitative tools that I know some mentors were talking about that you don't really need to know or have experience with, but dedicate time to learn them. And thankfully, I was able to dedicate that time, and my mentors dedicated their own time to teach me those tools. And I'm so grateful for that. And I also wanted to mention that all of those personal development webinars that Cassie and Josh administered and planned were so useful as well throughout the internship, and has been helping me even today with like being able to write cover letters today for my future internship/job. So I'm very grateful for my experience. And if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Great, thanks so much, Daniela. And we also wanted to share an educator perspective. So we've asked Adita O'Brien to jump in. And Adita, if you could share a little bit with us about your experience, and also let us know where you teach and subject-wise. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adita O'Brien. I teach at Curtis High School on Staten Island in New York City. I teach IB biology and AP environmental science. And I just had amazing experience last year. I just want to tell you all, I'm already jealous looking at this year's project. So I think you're going to be super excited to work with all these amazing researchers at Columbia University. First of all, I want to say you're going to have access to so many resources and researchers and guest speakers, and there's going to be so much you can bring back to your classroom. I was able to, so I spent the summer working with Joshua Fisher and Andrew Krushevich and Sophia Ree, and we worked on actual new academic curriculum for pre-college students. And the whole curriculum was based on ongoing research on decision-making with climate information. And I was able to work with them to build this curriculum and embedded pre-activities for students and post-activities for students. And a lot of it I'm actually able to use in my AP environmental class. So I would definitely recommend to all of you to read carefully what's in there. If that's aligned with your curriculum, you're gonna get a lot out of it. But also there's a lot of flexibility. You're gonna be collaborating with other educators, building other activities, looking at their research and comparing things. So there's just so much wealth of knowledge that you're going to be exposed to, and you're going to learn a lot of skills. And don't be overwhelmed. There's so much support. I was like daily communicating with Joshua, Cassie, and Sophia. Every time I had a question, they helped me out, answered my questions, and I just got so much support. And at the end, I was actually able to present my research at the AGU this December at New Orleans. So I just got so much out of this experience. I recommend it to everyone, and I'm already jealous what you're gonna get to do this summer. So enjoy.
Thank you both, Adita and Daniela, for joining. I think, you know, rather than us telling you how great the program is, it was always very helpful to hear from past participants. So if you have no additional questions, Adita and Daniela, you are free to go. Thank you so much again for taking the time to join us today.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's get back to important dates. So I'm gonna have Josh take over here. I think there's nothing in the Q&A box for me to address, but if things come up so far, there was a question about sort of preference to staying on campus. So I just want to reiterate that unfortunately, staying on campus is not an option. As I said in a previous version of this, or if we were pre-COVID, these types of programs would often have housing opportunities. There have been questions about if you have family in the area and that family and those family members are within a commuting distance of Columbia, then yes, you're eligible to apply. For those of you who may not have family members who do want to be considered, we're happy to take the application. There is a chance that things can change. And so just stay updated on our website, because there is the chance if we are able to offer housing, we will post, make sure to post that opportunity. We have a fairly tight sort of timeline that we're able to work with. And because we haven't been able to get an answer right now, the answer is no. Right now, the answer is no. No one except for Columbia students are able to utilize housing in the summer. And so if that decision changes, and that is something that is not up to us, unfortunately, to decide, and if that changes, though, we will be sure to make an update on our website to let everybody know about that. However, it will likely not be within the next sort of week or two. So many of these decisions are kind of made very last minute, and we didn't want to hold off because we realize everybody wants to make plans for the summer and apply to the program. And so that is unfortunately where we currently stand. Yes, we will cover the cost of commuting. So absolutely. And that includes subway or commuter trains. Yeah. So, all right, Josh, I'll hand it over to you and I'll take some of the questions in that Q&A box.
Great. So first, thanks everybody for joining the webinar and for your interest in the program. As you've seen, it's really an exciting program and great opportunity. Just seeing the mentors present their projects, I'm jealous. I kind of want to jump off this end and join one of the projects. But that said, I'm going to be joining Cassie in managing and leading this for the summer. One of the questions in the chat box was with regard to what the dates are. So we have two cohorts coming through. The first is the undergraduate cohort. That cohort starts June 6th and runs for 10 weeks until August 12th. The educator cohort joins a little bit later, July 5th to August 12th, so a 6-week program. And within that, there's not a lot of flexibility for starting later, ending earlier. It's really important that you're able to commit for the entire 6 or 10 weeks. The mentors are putting a lot of time and energy and trust in the cohorts. And so we are hoping that the cohorts will match that investment. A couple logistical details. The application opened January 13th. Hopefully you've all seen that. It's a pretty simple, straightforward Google form. If you have any questions about the Google form, please send us an email, let us know. In that form, you're asked to provide your information about the school you're attending, your major, some things like that. And then you're asked to identify which of the mentor research programs you're interested in joining. And you have 3 options to select your first, second, and third choices. If you're only really interested in one program and then open to any of the others, we've put options for open to any programs in the second and third choices. So definitely select, definitely flag which program you're most interested in, and then the others that you're also interested in. That goes for both the educators and the undergraduates. We're planning to close the applications on February 25th. So you have still about a month to get the applications in. We won't, unfortunately, be able to accept applications after the 25th. So please, if you're interested, get your application in by that date. With your application, you're required to submit 2 letters of reference or request 2 letters of reference from professors or academic referees. We'll give those letter writers an extra week so we can accept the letters up until March 4th, I believe. But these timelines are pretty strict so that we can get the decisions turned around to you all so that you can make your summer plans. So we're hoping to have the notification sent out by March 28th, between the end of March and the start of April. So that's our timeline. Any questions about that, please just put them in the chat box and we'll respond. Cassie, do you want to go to the next slide? Great. So yeah, as I was mentioning, we've got the official Google form for the application. In addition, when you're preparing that application, you need to have a few things ready to upload. You need your resume. And as Cassie mentioned, please highlight any language skills, any technical skills, software, qualitative research, any methodologies that you're familiar with, just so the mentors have a good sense of who you are as they're reviewing the applications. And you can flag that in either your CV or the statement of interest. The statement of interest should really articulate why you're interested in the program, which specific projects you're interested in, and how that maps to your current and future academic goals. In addition, we need a transcript from your institution. It can be an unofficial transcript, so it shouldn't be terribly difficult to get that. But each of these materials can be uploaded in PDF, JPEG, I believe, or Word form. So not a lot of restrictions there. And then finally, the 2 letters of reference we'll need. So in the Google form, you're asked to provide the names and emails of those 2. And then we'll reach out to those letter writers on our end to ask them for letters of recommendation. But we include the link that you can send them as well, so that you can reach out to the mentors, say, you know, I'm asking for a letter of reference, please upload your letter to this link, and get them started on that. There might be a lag between when you submit your application and when we get to the emails out to the letter writers. So definitely be proactive. All the information's there at the end of the application form, but definitely reach out to the letter writers early. Make sure that this is on their radar with the deadline for early March, March 4th, so that they can plan their schedules accordingly. Cassie, next slide. Yeah, so one of the last things is we are in an ongoing pandemic. We're being as flexible as we possibly can with trying to make this a hybrid program. We'd love to bring everyone together in person so that you can have a sense of cohort, so that you can get experience at Columbia University and get some face-to-face time with your mentors and research teams. That said, there are some public health restrictions at Columbia that everybody needs to be aware of. First, Columbia is requiring any persons who are on campus to be vaccinated and have their booster. This is unfortunately something we don't have any flexibility on. And so after you're accepted in the program, before you start the internship, we're going to need you to submit documentation on the vaccination and the boosters. Currently, everyone's required to wear face coverings, and not just any face covering, but it has to be higher quality, N95, surgical masks, those sorts of masks. Cloth masks right now aren't allowed. And so if there are issues with getting the proper PPE, we can help you make sure that you're covered, safe, and in compliance. All the vaccine documentation we'll put on the website or put links to, just so everybody has it. Columbia's websites have their COVID-19 policies pretty well articulated. So we'll make sure that everybody has access to that. And yeah, finally, the list of vaccines that are currently accepted by Columbia. With that, we're really excited to bring you all into this program. As Cassie mentioned, we have a lot of extracurricular and cohort-based activities. So really just thrilled to see so many people interested in the program, and turn it back to you, Cassie.
Great, thanks, Josh. A couple of things I think I just want to add. There is, I realized that we didn't include information about program eligibility, and there's a question that has come up in the Q&A box. So unfortunately, international students are not eligible to apply for the Research Experiences program. This is because it is a National Science Foundation funded effort. However, US citizens and permanent residents only. We did get a question a while ago about if you are a US citizen or permanent resident and you are attending school internationally, you are eligible. The eligibility is based on your citizenship and permanent residency status, not based on the institution that you attend. So I just want to clarify that. Do letters of recommendation have to be from previous professors? For undergraduates, we'd like them to be from professors. Because this is an academic research experience, that is what we would prefer to see. For the educators, one of the letters should be from your current supervisor, whether that's your principal or head of school, mostly to get a sense of your who you are as a teacher, what particular professional learning opportunities you've been engaged in, and how might this experience help you. For undergraduates, the reason we ask for the academic references is because you're currently in school and this is an academic research opportunity. If in a circumstance where you might have left school for a little bit, or you are on a break, we would consider perhaps one letter from an employer, but you would want to make sure that you highlight any of that and why you're submitting one letter from a professor or one letter from an employer in your statement. So I would strongly suggest that it would be from professors. It doesn't necessarily have to be from professors who you have you've been in their class. It could be a professor you've worked on a research project for. If you were hired as a teaching assistant or a research assistant for a professor or a lab, that is acceptable. So just think about your letter writers here. Well, what the letter writers should do is be able to paint a picture of you for us that we can't necessarily tell maybe from your statement or from your resume, and is to have an objective presentation of who you are. I think that last year we didn't, I'm just trying to think what other questions came up about the letter writers. If for the application, if we don't have a complete application from you, but we have your letters, we cannot review the application. So that it's really important for you to know that your application has to be complete and has to have met all the requirements of what we need before we can even read your letters. If you have fantastic letters, but you didn't upload a proper resume or a statement of interest, unfortunately, your application won't be considered, but we'll be sure to send reminders about the deadlines, and feel free to reach out to us at any point. Our emails are here. We respond very quickly via emails. Josh, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, just on that note, if for some reason you submit your application and realize just after the fact that you didn't upload your transcript or didn't upload some documentation, please get in touch with us. Just send us an email and say, I submitted my application on this date. I neglected to attach X document, and we will make an exception to accept that before the deadline.
Yes.
But again, as Cassie said, any applications that come in that are incomplete by the deadline, we can't accept.
Thanks. I think I will say a few more things about the statement of interest. So I know that last year when applicants applied, There were questions specifically around whether or not students had to have taken certain classes, like is calculus absolutely required for us to be considered in this program? The answer is no. However, we would like to see, this is why we ask for a transcript, so we get a sense of what classes you have taken, what classes you might be registered for next semester. As you heard across the projects, there's a significant number of projects that require students to have some quantitative experience, whether that is statistics, whether it's calculus, or whether it's more on the software side with R, Python, or MATLAB, or ArcGIS. So something to demonstrate your quantitative experience is important. It doesn't have to be calculus, but we would like to see transcripts that have some math and statistics counts towards that, as well as some indication that you are interested in environmental science or climate science. That is not to say that if you are a social science major that we will reject you purely based on your major. It's all about finding a fit. There is one particular project that is definitely more social science focused, in which case we might not necessarily need you to have, chemistry for that particular project, but it's all about finding a fit. And in terms of if you have gaps on your transcript, if you have gaps in your studies, the statement of interest is a good place to highlight or to discuss those gaps. Again, if you needed to take a semester off or multiple semesters off, if there's a gap in your transcript, a gap in your resume, you should try to address those, because we will review these pretty carefully and we will absolutely see the gaps, and it is best if you try to address this up front, and that way we have the information from you directly about this. There are cases where we will follow up with an interview along with the mentors. Last summer, there were some interviews for some projects where the mentors really wanted to meet some of the final applicants, a short list of applicants, before they made a final decision about the person that they wanted to bring on to their particular project. So there is a chance that between the deadline for your letter writers to submit their recommendations and when we make a decision on the applicants, there's a chance that we will contact you for an interview, which is why it's really important to submit an email with your application that you read every day. I cannot emphasize this enough. If we don't hear from you, we will assume that you are no longer interested and move on to the next individual. So please make sure that you include an email that you check every day, preferably your school email. And if you don't use that, make sure your school email is forwarded to an email that you're actually reading. Email is the primary way that we are going to contact you.
Just following on one thing Cassie said, if there are extenuating circumstances in your transcript or something that you feel like you'd like to flag, just so the reviewers, the mentors have a better sense of you, definitely put it in. Definitely don't put in any sensitive information. We're not asking you to disclose anything related to your own personal situation. But what is helpful for the mentors and for us as reviewers is just to get a sense of who you are, the professional reason that, if there is a gap, the professional reason that there is a gap. So don't worry about if there is something you want to explain, just deal with it professionally, but also, we'll be sensitive with any information that we're provided. And so just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I'll mention that aside from Josh or myself, it is the mentors who will have access to the applications, and that is it. And we don't store that data long term. We're not going to sell your information to anybody. We fully respect your privacy, and we're collecting information purely to try to just better understand who you are and what whether or not this is going to be a good fit. The one thing I will say about another thing, just to mention, this will likely be hybrid because most of our faculty, researchers, and staff are not back full time. Most of them are doing 2 to 3 days in person. Our teaching activities are in person, but many are continued to do a hybrid schedule. We are looking at finding dedicated space and trying to sort out a schedule. This will be probably closer to the summer once we have a list of students and teachers that have been accepted. Trying to figure out a schedule is going to be interesting. We're going to do our best to make sure that there are days on campus each week, 2 to 3 days on campus, where everyone has an opportunity to come together. Last summer, this was fully remote, and that had its own benefits as well as challenges, and we're going to be attempting a hybrid model this summer. Any commuting would be to Columbia University's Morningside Heights campus, potentially our Manhattanville campus, which is just about a 10-minute walk north of our Morningside Heights campus. Climate School has some space at 125th and Broadway. There's no expectation for you to do 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, on this project. However, we would like this to be the big thing that you commit to in the summer. We understand that if you are working part-time, or if you have other things happening in your life, but we would not recommend doing a full-time job plus this. It will not be a very smooth experience. A lot of the projects, as the mentors mentioned, require a significant commitment on your part to learn. There's usually readings, but those are all there not to be punishment in any way. They're to help you succeed in the project and get the most out of the experience. And the same goes, and that's for undergraduates and for educators. I would not recommend, trying to do this and maybe teach a full load at summer school, for example. We definitely want you to be committed to this project and to be here full time and to be able to join in on calls that your research mentors might have that may not necessarily be directly related to the research project, but that will help you in the professional experience. So we have talked a lot. We're basically at time here. Does anybody have any last minute questions that they would like to ask? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can come back to the Q&A. See here. Angela, I would say, so this is a slightly difficult question to answer because last year we didn't really have a normal year. Last year we found out about this award quite late. And I think we had fewer than normal or fewer applications than we would normally see if we had started the process earlier. Most research experience sites get about, I would say on average, 200 to 300 applications for a varying number of spots. So we had 8 undergraduate spots and 4 educator spots. And that is not going to change. That is really dictated by the funding that we have. So I would encourage you to, although we may not get that many applications because we have restrictions about housing and who is eligible to apply, and that ends up changing the candidate pool quite a bit. So it is hard to dictate. I would say it is competitive, but not impossible. And I think that, a a lot of this can be, you can increase your chances by kind of looking at the project summaries and descriptions fairly carefully, aligning and making sure that you are aligning your statements to those projects, bringing and being prepared to talk about your experiences in the statement. Yeah, so those are probably some key things. And if you start early, please don't leave this until the last week before the applications are due. I would say that another thing to remember is please also have all your materials ready to upload when you go to the Google form. It doesn't let you save, I believe, and so you can't come back to it. So you should have the documents ready. If you start an application and you don't finish it, or you run into an issue, you can start again. And so until you hit submit, nothing is registered. So if you start and you realize, oh shoot, I forgot something, or I don't know how to answer this question, I really want to ask Cassie and Josh, you should definitely do that. We've hopefully made the application form fairly straightforward with the information that you need to submit, and the key documents that you need to submit we've covered, and that information is also on the website. Okay, so with and I would say we have these program dates, but everything comes with a caveat these days. In terms of the dates, if for whatever reason we need to shift the dates, we'll let you know as early as possible. But those are the dates that we strive for. We're striving for. And throughout your time here, you'll see a mix of Josh and myself at various things, remotely, in person, along with your mentors. There's fairly set schedules in terms of encouraging you to attend events, whether they're in person or remote, which is why I had made the comment about this should be the big main thing that you do in the summer. It's very distracting for others as well as your mentors if you can't make meeting dates, or if this project or this experience is not prioritized. It just changes your experience completely. So with the, yeah, I think that's a good kind of reminder. Okay, so I don't see any more Q&A questions. Josh, is there anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just thanks again for your interest in the program. Looking forward to meeting some of you this summer and working with you. As you saw, the mentors are all pretty great. The projects are great. The cohort will be equally great. So just really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, thanks for your time, Josh, and thanks to everybody here for joining in today. We'll send out a recording of this along with the slide deck and reference to the website. So if you do have questions about the process, feel free to reach out to us. All right. Thank you, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.